Hi, I'm Jamie Karlson. I am a captain at Baranof Fishing Excursions here in Ketchikan, Alaska. Born and raised here in Ketchikan, and today I would like to show you how I rig up a herring for king salmon fishing. So first of all, of course you're going to need a herring, and I like to brine my herring about 24 hours prior to the threading process, so you get a good brine and it's nice and firm with salt. You're going to need a herring needle, which you can get at Pacific Pride or at the Tongass Marine Store. You'll need some No. 2 Petite fasteners, and I use these as nose clips to close the nose of the herring once you've threaded it. And then of course whatever leader setup you'd like to use. With this setup you can run a regular leader like this with multiple hooks, or you can also do a treble hook setup. So this is the salmon leader that I like to use when I'm rigging up a baited herring, a whole herring. So I always like to use a crimp. I'm not much of a knot gal when it comes to my leaders. So I use a K-sleeve, I crimp it down, just a nice little loop, and it makes it really easy to work with. I use a 30-pound fluorocarbon, but you can use mono, you can use whatever you like. I like the flexibility of it. As far as hooks, I tie my hooks with about a 2-inch radius apart, but it depends on the size of herring that you're using, how far away your hooks are going to be. And I like to use a size 5 octopus hook. I like red just because it's pretty, and in my mind I think the king salmon think it's pretty too. So that's my leader setup, and I usually tie them about between 30 and 34 inches long. So it's kind of up to you. Some captains prefer much longer leaders, some captains prefer short. It kind of depends on what kind of spin you want in the water behind your flasher. But about, like I said, about 30 to 34 inches long, depending. I use a threading needle. Now this needle has an open eye on it, so it's really easy to hook your crimped eye onto it. So I recommend this type. There are some that are closed that are trickier to work with. And I use this to thread my herring. Now with herring, I like to go with the red package. So you're looking at about a 5.5 to 6-inch herring. This size just is manageable. It's easy to drag behind a flasher, and it still has a pretty good spin to it. The bigger you go with your herring, the slower your spin's gonna be if you're dragging it behind a flasher. So this would be like a red pack is what I typically like to run. To thread it, you're gonna take your herring needle, which I've already cut this herring and brined it, so it is cut for me to be able to thread. And I take my needle first and just run it up, and you kind of got to feel your way up, and you want to go right through the mouth. So now I've got my needle through the herring. I take the eye of my leader, and I'm just going to hook it onto that little hook at the end, and then I'm going to pull it through. So now I've got my leader running through the fish, and then I just kind of guide the line all the way up, and I'm going to tuck this first hook up under the dorsal fin. So I'm just going to kind of carefully run it through. Now obviously this is kind of involved, so it's good to do this before you get out on the water. If you can pre-rig your herring and have them all set up, then it's much faster for throwing gear in the water. So once that's tucked in, I've got one trail hook out right about by the tail of the herring. To finish up the job, you're going to clip the nose shut so that mouth isn't gaping open. I feel like the king salmon, if they see the mouth open, they know something fishy is going on. And so I'm going to take this clip, and I just come up right under the mouth, put a little pressure on it, and pinch it tight. What I love about this setup is that it catches salmon, any salmon, particularly king salmon, cohos, pinks. You drop bait in the water and you're going to tend to catch fish. This setup has been passed down by my father, who was a commercial power troller for a number of years, so I really have a relationship with it. But you can make it your own. It doesn't have to be multiple hooks. Like I said, you can use a treble hook setup, you can tweak it. There's so many different ways to run bait for salmon. So if you check out exclusivealaska.com, you can find more videos on how to rig up bait for salmon, and you can also find videos of us actually using the gear while fishing. Hope you guys enjoy.